Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown, the unofficial sumo podcast for official sumo fans. This is Jake.
And this is Ryan. You seemed unsure about if that was
I
Jake.
came real close to saying official sumo Jakes. I came really, really close. And for the record, I am recovering from my I've lost count. Another case of pink eye. I am not stoned casting right now. But yeah, that's the flavor of the month at the daycare center right now. So super fun.
It's been lice in my daughter's preschool
Mm,
class, which she did happen to pick up, but as of
mm,
yesterday, we are looking like we're pretty lice free now. So
nice.
we should be pretty good state, but nobody cares about the multiple ailments
No,
that
no,
our
no. Let's keep
children are
going on
going
this.
through. This is the Haru Banzuke review. Came out a couple of days ago, and it kind of went as I expected. The spots that I was confident on, I got right, and then the spots where I had to make choices, as always, I make the wrong choice. That's just what happens
Right.
with these, except for the one time that I won this thing. It just seems like if there's some sort of toss up, I'm getting it wrong. Let's jump into it and see how this Banzuke shook out. Of course,
There was one notable thing that you went against the grain and came out on top, but we'll get there. I don't think you should judge yourself too harshly, though.
well, yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Of course, at the top of the Banzuke, a monumental shakeup as on day 5 of the Basho, Teru no Fuji retired, but Hoshoryu was able to come up with a performance to win the Yusho, get the back-to-back Yusho equivalent in Yusho required of an Ozeki to be promoted to yokozuna, and our new yokozuna on the east side of the Banzuke is, of course, Hoshoryu. So that is a new change, and hopefully he will get some company up there fairly soon in the form of either Onosato or Koto Zakura.
Hey,
Speaking of Onosato and
real
Koto
quick,
Zakura,
if Terunofuji hadn't retired, does Yokozuna work the same way as Ozeki, where the new guy would have been the bottom ranked Yokozuna?
yes,
Gotcha.
yes,
So it would have been Terunofuji on the east and Hoshoryu on the west had he
correct.
not retired. Got it. Okay.
Yep. And then at the Ozeki rank, we will have Onosato and Koto Zakura in that order, as that is the order of wins that they had. Onosato with his 10 is greater than the 5 for Koto Zakura.
Yeah, I
And with
forgot that.
those 5 wins that Koto Zakura had, he is Kadoban, and he needs 8 wins to keep his rank of Ozeki. Pretty sure I said this on the Hatsu recap, but with Kirishima's kind of shocking uh, downward spiral that he is hopefully recovering from at this point. I
Hopefully.
can't take for granted that Koto Sakura is going to get those 8 wins at this time. I
Hmm.
really hopeful, but Renly, I need that microphone, buddy. You can't rub your face against that.
Yeah, when Kirishima fell off, it was like at the peak of us expecting him to become Yokozuna within the year. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, so like I don't know, things can shift really fast, but yeah, Koto Zakura, very steady guy. We'll talk about him plenty on the preview, but yeah, definitely don't take for granted that he's for sure going to get those 8.
Yep, absolutely. And those are our only 2 Ozeki. We are back down to 2 Ozeki. So with the retirement of Teru no Fuji, our Sanyaku ranks are shrinking by 1 from 8 Rikishi to 7 Rikishi, which means, as you can see, if you're following along on YouTube, the Banzuke does indeed go down to the Maegashira 18 rank for the second time in the past few years. And I know Maegashira 8 isn't a very common ranking to be had on the Banzuke. So hopefully we can get somebody back up to Ozeki, kind of bolster those Sanyaku numbers a little bit. And some of the people that might be trying to bolster the Ozeki ranks are our Sekiwake. We're on the east side. We're going to have Daisho. He's just sliding over from the west side where he was in the Hatsu Basho over to the Sekiwake East ranking following his 11-4 record. And then at Sekiwake West, we have Oho making his Sanyaku debut, rising 4 ranks from Maegashira 3 to Sekiwake West. So this one was one on the preview. It's like, it could go either way between Oho or Kirishima. Both of them, by the math, deserve the exact same rank. So, what is the Banzuke committee going to value here? Are they going to be valuing the 12 wins that Oho got that would give him more than the 11 wins that Kirishima had? Or are they going to value the higher rank of Kirishima and possibly his previous experience in the Sanyaku ranks and as a former Ozeki? Turns out, at least in this case, maybe it was the 12 wins. Maybe it was Oho's fighting spirit. Maybe it was the fact that he participated in a playoff for the U show. Whatever it
Maybe
was,
that's the way the coin came up when they flipped it.
Maybe that's it just came up tails when it could have come up heads. But whatever it was, Oho landing at Sekiwake here. This is the one Jake was mentioning. And I didn't really get a whole lot of guff for this, but I think on the YouTube comments, this was the only one that anybody pointed out. It's like, hey, I really think it's going to be Kirishima. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It might be. I said it's 50-50. It might be.
One of our listeners pointed out that there was a bit of an argument on...
No. Not one of our listeners. The asset, who is now the number one ranked player on the Guess the Banzuke
heard that.
rankings.
All right. So yeah, real quick, how many of our U's and patrons are in the top 10 now?
We have me.
That's
we
one
have asset. Captain Smartass at number 5 overall. We had one that was in the top 10 last time, but then they dropped out. I believe that was a.k.a, if I'm correct. I think they dropped out of the top 10. I can't remember off the top of my head if we have anybody else that's in the top 10 right now. But yeah, got a good number of myself and patrons included in the top 10 of Guess the Banzuke right now, which kind of sucks because I am dropping down the Guess the Banzuke rankings, and I would really like it if they would stop doing so damn well and pushing me down the standings every time.
Yeah, less of I guess you're right. I'm looking at it like a team game here, and when it's really an individual game.
That's right, it is.
Oh man. Okay. Well, anyways, congratulations, Asset. I knew you did well, and I saw that's where that story came from. That on Reddit there was quite a bit of. I wouldn't say controversy.
Downvoted for simply saying he thought Oho was going to go over Kirishima. It's just like, I mean, based on the math, Oho had the more wins. That's a common tiebreaker. They just get downvoted a heck, and we're like, that was like the one we were talking before this came out. It's like, okay, really hope this coin flip lands on our side so that we could just like. Why is this the one we're getting guff on? It was a 50-50 coin flip.
Yeah. Leave it to Reddit to turn a just speaking of coin flips or throwing darts at a dartboard, it's like this disagreement will become the toxic one right now.
Yeah.
Oh well. Anyways, so yeah, Oho at Sekiwake got the tiebreaker over Kirishima.
And that is the only thing that I was unsure about on the preview episode that I got correct. Everything else that I waffled on, I did it wrong, but we'll get there. Didn't start getting it wrong at Komosubi as we correctly had Kirishima, only rising up one rank to Komosubi East after an 11-4 record. That's just kind of how it is when you're at the top of the Maegashira rankings. There's just not a lot of room to go up, no matter what your record is. But I am going to give him a bit of a snub of the Banzuke candidacy just because got 11-4 record. You only moving up one rank kind of sucks.
Still sucks. Yep.
Yeah. And then on the west side of the Komosubi rank, we're going to have a luck of the Banzuke candidate in Abi, as he had a losing record as a Komosubi last Basho, but he was able to maintain his status in the Sanyaku ranks as he slid over from the Komosubi East rank to the Komosubi West rank, following a 7-8 record. Moving on to the Maegashira 1 rank, or the Maegashira Waka rank, as at Maegashira 1 East, we have Waka Takakage dropping 1 rank to Maegashira to Maegashira 1 East after a 7-8 record from Komosubi. And then at Maegashira 1 West, we have Wakamoto Haru dropping 2 ranks after a 6-9 record from Sekiwake. So Waka brothers having a bit of a tough time in the Sanyaku ranks last Basho, land right next to each other at Maegashira 1 on this Banzuke.
Yeah, that's pretty funny seeing them right next to each other.
Yeah. Maegashira 2, we're going to have Gonoyama rising one rank to the east side following an 8-7 record for Maegashira 3, and then Chiyoshoma rising three ranks to Maegashira 2 West following his 9-6 record from Maegashira 5. For Chiyoshoma at Maegashira 2 West, this matches his previous career high ranking that he last held in May of 2017. So it's
Oh,
been
geez.
nearly 8 years since Chiyoshima was this high on the Banzuke.
That is quite a drought.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving down to the Maegashira 3 rank, Tobizaru dropping one spot. Maegashira 2 to Maegashira 3 East following a 7-8 record. And we have Takanosho dropping two ranks to Maegashira 3 West following a 6-9 record. Not a whole lot of discussion to be had on any of these ranks. Like I said, this Bonsuke kind of just built itself for the most part, with the exception of a couple of tough points. But up to this point, this Bonsuke is really building itself. There just wasn't a whole lot of options that you could have gone for that made a whole lot of sense. Like if you really wanted to on the preview, if you were trying too hard, you could have tried to drop Abi out of the Sanyaku ranks for having a losing record, but then you're over promoting Gonoyama or Chiyoshoma by two. Really didn't make a whole lot of sense to do it. Like this is really the only way that this part of the Bonsuke was going to come together, which is good that I've gotten it all correct. It would be embarrassing if I had messed something up like that. But you're going to see here pretty close soon where things start to fall apart a little bit from my prediction. So we get to Maegashira 4 on the east side. Takayasu rising two ranks following an 8-7 record from Maegashira 6. And then Maegashira 4 West. We're going to have Ichi Yamamoto rising to an 8-7 record. I need to go. Jake, can you fix Ichi Yamamoto's name in the spreadsheet there?
Nope, that's how you spell it.
So I'm not fully sure. So Ichi Yamamoto is my first miss, and I'm not fully sure why, honestly. Like there were three Rikishi contending for this spot. They were Ura, Ichi Yamamoto, and Keen Bozan. So if we wanted to use wins as a tiebreaker for who would deserve this rank, well, that would have been Keen Bozan. He had 12 wins compared to Ichi Yamamoto's 8 and Ura's 7. If we used rank as a tiebreaker for who should take the spot, that would be Ura. He was ranked the highest of these three previously. If we wanted to give joy bias to Ichi Yamamoto, which really stretching it. He was Maegashira 6, but he did fight three Sanyaku Rikishi. Well, then we just have to look at Keen Bozan, who fought four Sanyaku matches.
Yeah, okay, never mind then.
So, not entirely sure. My only reasoning that makes sense in my head beyond the simple, oh, we drew names out of a hat, is that Ura and Ichi Yamamoto, Ura was Maegashira 4, Ichi Yamamoto was Maegashira 6. So they very similar records as each other, and maybe they got some sort of not necessarily joy bias but just like ranking bias, and so they kind of were treated as equals on that front, and which is why Ichi Yamamoto would go ahead of Ura here. And then you look at Keen Bozan. Yeah, he had those four Sanyaku matches, but leading up to that he had like 9 or 10 straight double-digit Maegashira matches that he had. So despite having 12 wins and being in the playoff, maybe he's punished for an otherwise easier schedule. That's the only reason I could come up with why.
Random, though.
Yeah, it's the only thing I can come up with why Ichi Yamamoto is ahead of Ura and Keen Bozan, because most of the ways that you typically look at it, Ichi Yamamoto would fall in the middle of those two, whether you're looking at it wins or rank. So it's kind of weird that he's the one. It's the top billing among those three.
Frustrating. Yeah, and these are the
Very
little ones where like the established pattern has an answer. You know, they're the Banzuke rules that have led you to being in the top 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's
former number one. Let's never.
You're right.
Never drop that. Former number one.
It's gotten you to number
Yusha
1.
Winner.
But you've been in the top 5 or 6 for a long time now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just saying that like clearly you're onto something with your rules. So like that's why it's kind of frustrating when one of these pops up. There's always at least a couple that are just like, no, let's throw everybody off a minute here.
Yeah.
Oh well. But
I've
yeah,
been
anyways.
in the top 10 of Guess the Banzuke since March of 2022.
Jeez.
Did not realize it had been that long.
Yeah, you are just hitting 3 years in the top 10 out of I saw there were like a huge number of entries this time, right?
Almost 360. Yeah.
Jeez.
Absolutely massive new influx of predictions this time.
Yeah, it's been trending upwards, but the trend would have put it in like the low 200s if it was following based on the graph they have on their website.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But
Wow.
that's not important right now. We'll get to the Guess the Banzuke stuff at the end
Okay, fair
here.
enough. Fine.
So let's move on to Maegashira 5, where we have Ura landing at Maegashira 5 East, dropping one rank after his 7 and 8 record. And then we have Keen Bozan, Maegashira 5 West, rising 9 ranks after his 12 and 3 record from Maegashira 14. Another thing that I was thinking is like, well, maybe they wanted to make sure Ura got a drop in rank due to his losing record, but we'll see later on in the Banzuke. There's other Rikshi that didn't drop in rank after having a
Sure.
losing record. So that's not necessarily it either.
Can you refresh us on the meanings of the colors here?
Yes. So getting to Maegashira 4 West for my first miss, pretty happy with that. So any Rikshi that has a white background on the left side of the screen of what you're watching on YouTube, that's a perfect guess that I got. I nailed them exactly correct in my prediction. If they have a blue background, that means they went a little higher than I predicted. If they have a red background, it means they went a little lower than I predicted. And the deeper, the darker the shade of the blue or the red is the more severe miss. So what we're going to see on this Banzuke, we're going to see big stretches of white, big stretches of where I just got everything right. And then we're going to have little clusters of lightly shaded red and blue. This is one where if I got something wrong, I did not miss it by a whole lot, but it cascaded. So like I got
Yeah,
Ichi
yeah.
Yamamoto wrong, that cascaded to Ura and Keen Bozan. There's going to be a couple other spots where just like missing this one person by 2 spots means I missed 2 other guys by 1 spot.
Right. It's impossible to get one guy wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right, so we'll move on to Maegashira 6, where we're going to have another perfect guess right here with Hira de Umi landing at Maegashira 6 East, dropping 1 rank after a 7 and 8 record. But now we're going to hit another stretch of lightly shaded red and blue because after the last 3 or 4 Banzukes, I was getting pretty used to joy bias again and under demoting some Rikshi that are falling out. Boy, but this Basho, the Banzuke committee kind of just decided, nah, on the whole joy bias thing for the most part. So Takeru Fuji is going to land here at Maegashira 6 West, rising 5 spots after a 10 and 5 record. I did not have him making it up this far. My reasoning was he deserved to be 1 spot ahead of Shodai and Atami Fuji, both of whom were in the joy full Sanyaku schedules. So using precedent of just one Basho ago, these two would have gone ahead of Takeru Fuji here in this spot. So that's why I had that predicted to happen. Banzuke committee saw it differently this time and decided to eschew joy bias, and we'll really get to how far they ignore joy bias with another Rikshi a little later on down the line. Before we get to him, that is Maegashira 7 East, Shodai dropping 3 ranks following a 6 and 9 record. And then at Maegashira 7 West, we have Tamawashi. So even when, like I said, the joy bias didn't exist, and for about maybe a year or so, there was a stretch where, like, if a Rikshi deserved to be 1 rank behind another Rikshi, they would not get any joy bias to go ahead of them. But typically, if a Rikshi deserves to be, let's just say Rikshi deserves to be Maegashira 8, and there's 3 other Rikshi that deserve to be Maegashira 8, if one was in the joy, no matter if they were like East or West side, they were going to be the one, they were going to be the first one of that group that deserved to be Maegashira 8 to be ranked. That's not even happening this time, as we had Shodai, Tamawashi, and Atami Fuji all by the math deserve to be ranked Maegashira 7. Shodai was the only one that was previously on the east side, so he got first treatment. Then Tamawashi and Atami Fuji were on the west side. I would have expected Atami Fuji to go here, even if he wasn't ahead of like Takeru Fuji, which I had predicted. But the Banzuke committee just ignored the joy bias and just, well, typical tiebreaker in this spot. Tamawashi had more wins than Atami Fuji, so Tamawashi goes ahead of here. And so that means Atami Fuji is landing at Maegashira 8 East, and that is a drop of 6 ranks after a 5 and 10 record, which means that is
Yeah.
an over promotion of 1 rank for a Rikshi falling out of the joy, which is not something that I feel like I have seen since I've been predicting Banzuke's, is a Rikshi falling out of the joy being over demoted. I just can't recall that happening at another time.
Hmm.
So because of that, going to make Tamawashi a luck of the Banzuke candidate, and we're going to have Atami Fuji be a snub of the Banzuke candidate. Weird situation here. I'm not sure why they decided to do this at that time when they've been so consistently over the past doing it this, but the Banzuke committee is going to do what they're going to do, which is just not keep things consistent at all,
Right.
from one Banzuke to
Which
the
is just
next.
roll the dice and yeah, do things a little bit different. Like I said before, just keep everybody on their toes.
Yep. We're going to roll through these next few ranks because these are, said it on the preview, said it before on this episode. This Banzuke kind of put itself together really easily. And this is another big stretch where it's just like, yeah, this is just how it's going to happen. And that's how it laid out. So there's no real reason to spend any time on this. Everything went according to the standard tiebreaker rules. Somebody deserved the same rank. First preference would go to east side over west side. If you're tied on which side of the Banzuke you're on, whoever had more wins went ahead. That's how it's going to be for the next few ranks. So at Maegashira 8 West, we have Oshoma, who gets a promotion of 1 rank after an 8 and 7 record. Maegashira 9 on the east side, we have Haku Oho getting a 6 rank promotion after a 10 and 5 record. I believe this ties his career high ranking, but this will be the first time that he'll actually compete on the dohyo at a ranking this high in his career. And actually the same with Takeru Fuji. I think after his Yusho, he was ranked Maegashira 6 the following Basho, but of course he missed that tournament. So this will be the first time we see Takeru Fuji competing at a rank this high, even if it isn't technically his career high rank since he's been here before.
Yeah.
First time they're going to be competing on the dohyo at this rank.
Yeah. If I remember right, one of my favorite parts of that historic Yusho from Takeru Fuji was he was the lowest ranked Yusho winner of all time.
Yes.
Nobody else has ever won a Yusho and then been ranked Maegashira 6 or lower.
Yeah.
Because he did it from the very bottom and he had like no extra biases that were pushing him upwards. Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Then at Maegashira 9 on the west side, we have Endo dropping 2 ranks after a 6 and 9 record. Moving on to Maegashira 10 on the east side, we have Nishikigi rising up 2 ranks after an 8 and 7 record. Joining him on the west, we're going to have Shona no Umi rising 3 ranks after an 8 and 7 record. At Maegashira 11, here we're going to have Midori Fuji, who is staying put at his previous rank of Maegashira 11 East. He had a 7 and 8 record, but he was still the guy that deserved to be ranked the highest, so they just didn't move him at all. And then on the west side, we have Meisei dropping only 1 rank after a 6 and 9 record. A little bit of a spot on the Banzuke where we were kind of struggling to fill in the spots. We had to look to Rikshi that deserved to be ranked 2 spots below this spot to fill it in. Then at Maegashira 12 on the east side, we have Takara Fuji. He dropped 4 ranks after a 5 and 10 record. And on the west side, we have Meisei dropping 1 rank after a 6. Oh, sorry.
Onokatsu.
Oh, no. I don't know what happened there. Onokatsu staying at he's also staying at his previous rank of Maegashira 12 West after a 7 and 8 record. Then at Maegashira 13 on the east side, Nishiki Fuji rose 4 ranks after a 9 and 6 record from the Maegashira 17 rank. And then at Maegashira 13 West, this is our first Juryo promotee. This Basho, the Juryo rules, at least in this case, followed the typical thing. Nishiki Fuji was our last Makuuchi Rikshi with a winning record, and as soon as he was off the board, then Shishi was the next guy ranked, because Shishi deserved to be, based on the math, Maegashira 10. And so we've got him landing here at Maegashira 13 West. So he's back in the top division after just a one Basho stint down in Juryo. He made the most of it. That's 13-2, picking up the Juryo Yu show. So he is back in the top division, looking to get his first winning record up in the top ranks. Maegashira 14, we've got Ryuden. He is rising 6 ranks after an 11-4 record from him being down in Juryo. And then this is where my next streak ends here at my 14 West. A little bit of a surprise. Chura no Umi dropping only 5 ranks after a 4-11 record to the Maegashira 14 West rank. The reason why this is a little bit surprising to me is it puts him ahead of Juryo Rikshi Aonishiki that deserve to be at least 2 ranks higher than Chura no Umi. We've been seeing a lot recently that even if you deserve to only be 1 rank higher than a Makuuchi Rikshi, if you're a Juryo promotee coming up, that you would go ahead of that Makuuchi Rikshi. But here we have Aonishiki, who deserves to be at least 2 ranks higher than Chura no Umi, and he's going behind Chura no Umi here. It could be a case of Aonishiki's coming a little bit further down in Juryo than some of these other guys. He's coming from 5, and so maybe they're holding that against him. We've seen that happen in the past. The deeper from Juryo you're coming up from, the harder it is to get past some of these Makuuchi Rikshi. So maybe they're doing that here a little bit with Chura no Umi and Aonishiki. But at Maegashira 15 on the east side, that is where Aonishiki is going to make his top division debut. He's going to be our only making their top division debut this Basho. So far, we've only got 2 Rikshi that have made their debut at the top division. We had Tama Shoho and we have Aonishiki here. So last year, I think we had a total of like 9 or 10, and we're trending way below that so far this year.
Yeah, but like nearly half. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then at 15 West, we have Sada no Umi. He's rising up 3 ranks after a 9-6 record from down in Juryo. Maegashira 16 on the east side, we're going to have Asa Koryu. He is another one coming up from Juryo. He's rising up 3 ranks after a 9-6 record. And then we're going to have a couple of Makuuchi Rikshi dropping. Maegashira 16 on the west side, we have Koto Shoho, only dropping 3 ranks after a 5-10 record, kind of getting a little lucky having 5-10 from about Maegashira 13. That's borderline Juryo demotion range, but he's got 4 guys below him. So he did get pretty lucky with his placement here. Maegashira 17 on the east side. This is where Mitake Yumi is going to. So he went 2-13 from Maegashira 7. So he's dropping a full 10 ranks here. And once again, that's a borderline demotable case right there. And he still has 3 or 2 other guys below him on the Banzuke. So he was never in any real danger of dropping out of the top division. But I believe that is our belt holder for the GSB losers belt. He brought it down to the bottom of the division.
Yeah, that's painful for me as well, because Mitakayumi is, let's see, 3 Basho short of a decade in the top division, unbroken streak. He has only spent 4 Bashos in his entire career outside of the Maegashira or the Makuuchi division. Started at Makushita 10, then went to Makushita 3, spent 2 Basho getting through Juryo, and then within a year of that, he was in the Sanyaku and stayed there for a long time. Yeah, he's He has an incredible career, and despite his Ozeki time being pretty crap, he is definitely a very, very accomplished veteran at this point. And if he has another losing record, yeah, he might break that nearly 10-year streak in the top division.
Yeah. Another long streak that was broken this Basho, Hokuto Fuji going
Mm,
down to Juryo. This will be his first time down in Juryo since September of 2016.
wow.
So almost 9 full years uninterrupted for Hokuto Fuji. He absolutely rocketed up to the top division. He was in the top division 10 Basho after his debut at the bottom of the rankings in sumo. And so Hokuto one, just kind of health failing him and dropping down. Like all of the tadpoles, Takakeisho gone, Onosho gone, Hokuto Fuji and Juryo, Mitake Yumi almost in Juryo. Like that whole
Takayama is now running
generation.
marathons.
Yeah.
Asanoyama, who knows if we'll ever see him in top form again.
Yeah. So that whole generation of promising Rikshi,
They're old now.
Takakeisho, Mitake Yumi, all made it to both made it to Ozeki, so they kind of fulfilled their promise a bit. But yeah, they're all kind of seemings like they're on the downside of their career. Not seems like they're all definitely on the downside of their career because half of their
Yeah.
careers are over.
Yeah. Daisho, Takayasu, who else from like the old days is still up there, even in the top half of the Banzuke?
I mean, like
Tamawashi and Shodai, I
Endo,
guess.
Takayasu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, we're getting old.
It's been thinning out a lot over the
Yeah.
past year from the guys that were there when we first started watching.
It felt like, yeah, it felt almost not stagnant, but it felt like the top division was made up
It
of
did feel stagnant. It felt
roughly
stagnant.
30 of the 42 ranks were like the same guys for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years at the beginning of our watching sumo.
Yeah. And it'll probably get stagnant again once like all these guys filter out. We have kind of these new faces, and
Hmm.
these guys will probably all be like the main group for a while. Obviously, some changes, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
All right.
anyways, we got two more guys on this Bonsuke.
We got two more guys. And at Maegashira 17 on the west side, we've got Shiro Kuma, who is getting a 4 rank promotion after a 9-6 record from Juryo 4. And at Maegashira 18 on the east side, we have Toki Hayate dropping 1 rank after a 7-8 record. I'm a little surprised with Toki Hayate dropping here. I had him keeping his previous rank with a 7-8 record. So if we remember when I was looking at kind of these Juryo promotees, I was struggling. How do I look at this? Do I look at this as a Bansuke that ends at Maegashira 17 and compare the Rikshi based on that? Because that's what it was in Hatsu. Or when I look at a Juryo promotee being moved up, do I need to look at it as an 18 ranked, 18 Maegashira ranked Bansuke? Because that's what it'll be in March. And ultimately, I chose to look at it as a 17 ranked division. But Shirokuma, the only way that he tied deserving the same rank as Toki Hayate was if you look at it as a 18 rank or a 17 rank division, because
Oh,
otherwise
yeah.
Toki Hayate would deserve to be ranked Maegashira 18, and Shirokuma would deserve to be ranked Juryo 1, which Shirokuma would deserve to be ranked below Toki Hayate, so it'd be weird that they put Toki Hayate
Yeah, that is strange.
below Shirokuma, which is what they do here. So it seems to me like they were looking at it as Toki Hayate deserved the same rank, and they just chose Shirokuma was on the east side, Toki Hayate was on the west, and so there's that tiebreaker there. But then that brings me to, well, if we look at Chura no Umi and Sada no Umi, if we look at it as a 17 ranked division, then Sada no Umi deserved to be 1 rank ahead of Chura no Umi, and Chura no Umi went ahead of him
Yeah.
and Awanishiki, and Awanishiki would have deserved to be 3 spots higher than Chura no Umi. So just a little bit of inconsistencies there. But I do feel like with Shirokuma going ahead of Toki Hayate, that I think I was looking at it correctly. Needed to base these Juryo promotees based on how they deserve to be ranked compared to Rikishi based on Maegashira 17 being the low point of the Banzuke because that's what it was when they competed against each other back in January.
I'm not fully sure I can articulate it if you asked me to repeat your reasoning, but I believe it makes sense to me.
Yeah. It was a very long, inconcise stream of consciousness. If given 30 minutes, I could probably
It's a very avant-garde
yeah.
Bansuke coverage. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that is our Banzuke coming into March. As I said, fairly no big surprises here. No nothing that's shocking. Some things that I got wrong. Everybody's gonna get something wrong every single time. No huge shockers. I think for me, the biggest thing that surprises me is probably Atami Fuji getting that over demotion coming out of the Joy. That's yeah. Shura no Umi. That's just like why? But it's involving Jurio Promotees, so anything they do to be mean to Jurio Promotees, that's like all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not
It really just
be
comes
mad at
down
them
to
for that.
four mistakes, and three of them cascaded a little bit.
Yeah,
Like Ichi Yamamoto, if he was at 5 West, then that section's perfect. You know, if you moved him
correct.
down but kept everybody else in the same order. Same goes for the 6 through 8 issue. Churanaumi going 2 spots higher than you expected. And then Shirakuma Toki Hayate not really making sense why they're inconsistent, but they switched them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So with this Bansuke, we had 6 Rikishi promoted up to the top division from Juryo, those being Shishi, Ryuden, Aonishiki, Sadano Umi, Asakoryu, and Shirokuma. That means we've got to kick 6 Rikishi out of the top division. One of those is handled with the retirement of Teruno Fuji, which means the other 5 going back down to Juryo are Uroga, Hokuto Fuji, Kita Nowaka, Tama Shoho, and Kagayaki.
Kagayaki, yeah, like we mentioned it with Mitaki Yumi, but Kagayaki broke a streak of one basho in the top division. Oh, that man, I hate to see all that go to waste, but you know.
Yeah, a lot of potential being wasted there for Kagayaki, who is now on his 1, 2, 3,
Counting how many
4,
times he's dropped back
5,
down to
6,
Juryo.
7th, his 8th trip down to Juryo.
Oh man. Yeah, sometimes I wonder like if any of these wrestlers were to be fluent enough in English and interested enough to listen to our show, like what some of the things to stick out would be. And they'd all be confused like what did Kagayaki do that pissed them off for
I know.
nearly a decade now?
All Kagayaki has to do is win a special prize. Get
Just
a
once.
Kiboshi. Win a lower division Yusho. Get one accolade next to your name on Sumo DB. That's all he has to do.
For God's sakes, just do something.
But
Well,
he hasn't
to his
been able
credit,
to do it in. It's
yeah, to his credit, he has never sat out a match. That's nice. That's good for him.
actually, yeah, that is pretty damn impressive.
That's the closest he's got to an accolade, I guess, is a pretty very not pretty, a very solid Iron Man streak.
Maybe in
And
another 10 years, we'll be looking at the new Tamawashi.
yeah, he's also almost exactly 500 in his career. If he goes
548 and 549. I'm glad that
Yes.
it's one on the losing side and not
Yeah.
one on the winning side. That's very apropos. But yeah,
if he goes 8-7 and does perfectly mediocre again, he will be exactly 500, and that would be the best.
and likely back in the top division because he's ranked Juryo 1 West. So 8-7 record could get him back in the top, which would only set him up for going back down again.
Going back down again. Oh, all
right.
poor guy.
So looking at this Banzuke, how did I do? On my perfect predictions, very good. I got 30 bullseyes out of a possible 42. So that's 71% of the Rikishi that I placed perfectly on this Banzuke. My previous best is only 76%. So the best I've ever done on bullseyes is 32. I got pretty close this time with 30. The problem with this prediction is I missed a lot of Rikishi by just like one spot. But that one spot that I missed them by mostly sent them to a different rank. So like Ura, I had him at Maegashira 4 West. Well, he ended up going at Maegashira 5 East, which means I get 0 points for him. The
Right.
same with like Shodai and Tamawashi, Atami Fuji, Churo no Umi, Aonishiki. No points for those guys. I only missed most of those guys by one spot in my prediction, but because they didn't end up at the correct numerical rank, I don't get any points for it. So I ended up only getting 2 additional Rikshi at the correct rank, but on the wrong side, giving me 32 total Rikshi at the correct rank, which is only 76%. My previous best for that field being 83%.
Gotcha.
And in comparison, for first place in Guess the Banzuke on this, the first place guess had 36 Rikshi at the correct guess. So I finished 30th in Guess the Banzuke this time out of a total of 359 participants, far exceeding the previous highest amount. And I think I got to give a lot of credit, probably goes to Sumo Spiffy on YouTube for bolstering numbers of participants here in the Banzuke, Guess the Banzuke game. So that's fantastic to see so many people participating this and seeing it grow so much over the past few years.
What's Spiffy's Shikona on there?
Beef Tank. They finished like 50.
Not in the top
something.
10, I see. Interesting.
Not in the top 10. They were in the top 10 last time, I believe. They cracked the top 10, but this time. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking for the best YouTube coverage of the Banzuke,
oh, for sure.
This is the place to go. Sumo, they're good. They're very good. Their YouTube videos probably better than our YouTube videos, honestly. Not probably. They are.
You want to know why? Because we don't spend time on production when we could spend it studying Banzukes.
That's right. That's what we do.
That's right. Wonder if we can manufacture a feud out of this one like we did with Gunning a few years ago.
Yeah. We do need to get Gunning back on the show, but also
that'd be fun.
Being so busy.
Now that coward quit being the president of the Irish Amateur Sumo Federation, I heard.
Oh, really?
Running scared. Now that America's doing well, he's just like, oh, I can't do that.
Yep. All right. So my overall ranking did drop. So I was first, then I dropped to 4th. Now I'm down to 6th. So yeah, I mean, I've been struggling this past year. I got 30th this time. That's replacing a 16th place finish from Haru last year.
Yeah.
So that's hurting my scoring. But I mean, my last 3, 96th, 47th, and 30th. So yeah, it hasn't been the greatest run for me since I finished in first place back in September.
Yeah, that's right. It's just a big like Ozeki promotion hangover kind of thing for you.
Yeah.
You
have
win
a good
one
chance.
and then
Do have a good chance of improving my score. Last year in May, I finished 91st. So hopefully I can do better than 91st in May and get a much better score. I want to get back in the top 10. It seemed like at least every other basho is finishing in the top 10, and I don't know. They changed Banzuke committees on me, and these guys have just thrown me for a loop. I've not been able to keep up with them, unfortunately. I mean, I'm doing well enough, but not as good as I would like to be doing.
Yeah, top what is that? Top like 8% ish. Like you're still like very up there. And the fact that there was like 50% more people means this is the equivalent of like 20th if we had the same number of participants as previously.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know. I get it though. It does still feel like a slump to have a couple in a row that are not so good.
Yeah. But also I have to recognize my 2023, I was on fire.
Absolutely on fire.
Yeah. All right. So looking at the stats on this Banzuke, the biggest jumps up the Banzuke, Keen Bozan rising 9 ranks, and then you had Shishi rising up 8 ranks. Biggest drops down the Banzuke, it's going to be Mitake Yumi dropping down 10 ranks. Then I think Atami Fuji dropping down 6 ranks is the next biggest drop on this Banzuke. Rikshi that are at their career high rankings this basho, obviously Hoshoryu at Yokozuna, his career high rank, Oho at Sekiwake, Ichi Yamamoto at Maegashira 4, Shishi at Maegashira 13, Awanishiki making his top division debut at Maegashira 15, and Asakoryu at Maegashira 16, all at their career high ranks. Our snub of the Banzuke candidates for this basho, we had Kirishima, basically for only getting a one rank promotion after an 11 and
Yeah.
4 record. We've got, let's see, Atami Fuji being over demoted out of the Joy. And I think that's all I've got for snub of the Banzuke. Like I said, so kind of like put itself together
Yeah.
without really a whole lot of luck or non-luck going for them. So I have my idea who I would say for snub of the Banzuke. I might also say I'll throw Toki Hayate in there
Just
as
because
well.
of no reason he got shafted half a rank.
It feels like it to me a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at how Troda no Umi was compared to the Juryo promotees and how he
Right.
went ahead of a couple, and then Toki Hayate can't get the same benefit when he's in an even more beneficial state than Troda no Umi was when you compare him to the Juryo promotees. So I'll throw Toki Hayate in there as well. Jake, what are you thinking for snub of the Banzuke?
Got to be Kirishima. Makes sense in a vacuum, or it makes sense in context, but in a vacuum, going up one rank for 11 wins blows. That's terrible. I feel
I
bad for him.
I was gonna go another direction. I was gonna go with Atami Fuji, just for the complete
The unprovoked aggression from
the
the
unprovoked
from the
aggression they
Banzuke
had
committee.
for ignoring his joy bias. Maybe they just got tired of his stuff. They're like, dude, we've kept you in the joy for like a 1 year consecutively, and you haven't done any. Let's kick you further down the Banzuke, give you a chance to kind of recoup a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, I got to give snub of the Banzuke to Atami Fuji. But then we need to look at the other side of that coin. Who was lucky on this Banzuke? Abi having a losing record, but staying in the Sanyaku ranks. That's always lucky. I'm going to give it to Ichi Yamamoto because I don't know why he was ranked ahead of both
Sure.
Ura and King Bozon. Ahead of one of them, it's whatever.
It's a small amount of luck, but it's inexplicable, just like
Yeah.
with the Tommy Fuji. Can I
Exactly.
give an honorable mention to people who got lucky on this Banzuke?
Sure.
People who like having a yokozuna. Absolutely nailed it, rolled a
Yeah.
nat 20, won the lottery. For the first time in, I think it would have been since 93, I think we talked about on the recap episode, but like, if there's no real consequence for not having a yokozuna, but it hasn't happened since the early 90s.
Yeah.
And that's yeah,
It's weird.
absolutely hilarious to me that Hoshoryu came through at the exact moment.
It's weird how it's kind of lined up for these past two Yokozuna. I mentioned this on like our year-long prediction. I didn't get who was promoted to Yokozuna or when correct, but I was like, it seems like things just kind of line up. Like as soon as Hakuho is done, there's Teruno Fuji to take the Yokozuna crown, so that we're not left without a Yokozuna.
That was another
And
one that
Teruno-
happened in one basho. Like there was no gap, there was no overlap either.
Yeah, and then Teruno Fuji, he retires, and like Koto Zakura was struggling in this at the beginning of the Banzuke. Hoshoryu was like 4-1. There's like no clear lock. Like one of these guys is going to win the basho and be able to take over for Yokozuna, but Hoshoryu is able to gut it out in the end, and just so happens to line up that we're gonna make sure that we have a continuous line of Yokozuna going all the way back to 1993.
Hoshoryu was 6-3 at one point too, where it's like you're doing okay, but like your harder matchups are in the second week when you're at Ozeki, and like we certainly hadn't like completely written him off at the midway, but it was like we were talking about it like it was a pretty likely thing that there wouldn't be a Yokozuna. Like we said, yeah, Hoshoryu could come back because we had the absolutely random, nobody believed in him, Maegashira leader of Kinbozan at that point. But yeah, by everything stabilized afterwards. But it's another basho where like based on the results, everything seems fine, but it was a wild ride during. As we were
absolutely.
like Kinbozan didn't he have like a 2-win lead at one point?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
let me take a look.
Yeah, absolute roller coaster disaster of a thing to go through as far as like what's going to happen, how's it going to shake out. But then if you
It
look
doesn't
at
look
it,
like Keen Bozon ever had a 2-win lead over the entire field, but
mm,
after day, he had a 3-win lead over Hoshoryu.
that's right. Okay. Yeah, because he didn't lose until day 10 here. Um, yeah, day
Yeah.
10 to Abi. Regardless, it's happened before, but like, out of context, uh oh, neat. One Yokozuna left and another one got promoted. This
Yep.
happened 3 years ago, so no big deal.
Yeah.
But living through it, it's like, wow, that was nuts. How did that
Yeah.
work out so well? Oh
All
well.
right. We were still talking about luck of the Banzukes. I had Tamawashi, just for beating Joy Bias for some reason
Mm.
and going ahead of Atami Fuji here. Anybody else that I have being lucky? Um,
Yeah, just
we'll say
Shirokuma for
Shirokuma.
yeah, for just the half rank for nothing kind of deal.
Yeah. Who would you give the nod to? Not a very lucky Banzuke, I would say. So very tough pickings here.
Honestly, nobody, because like the even the guys that got lucky, it's not going to change who they face, except for like Ichi Yamamoto might have a different order of the top guys that he would go against, but
Yeah.
like I don't know. That's not really
It's
a
like
big
special
deal.
prize. We don't need to award it. So yeah, no luck of the
Yeah, we don't
Banzuke
have
this
to.
time.
We're not going to get fired from Bonsuke guessing.
That's right. All right. So that's going to wrap up our wrap up of the Banzuke. The Basho that this Banzuke is based off of will start on March 9th. Um, we will be recording our preview episode shortly. We had Mac and I did the trading card opening for the 2025 Series 1 set of trading cards. That will be up either before, at the same time, or after this. I'm not sure. It depends on when Mac can get to editing these respective episodes. Jake, I do have
You do have
for you.
for me.
This is a Takayasu card. You're not going to
Ooh,
be able to tell through the camera, but it's a special foil variant, a sparkle
neat.
variant. So it's basically the standard Takayasu card, but it's got a little bit of shiny background. So that's something new that they did with it, where you could get like a shiny variant of a Rikshi. And so I pulled a shiny Takayasu. And so I'll be sending that over your way.
I'll put it up here on my very limited collection of mostly Takayasu cards.
Yeah. I also was able to pull a shiny Shishi. So that one's going Mac's way.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. All right. But that's going to do it for this episode. So until next time, throw your salt high, keep moving forward.